I'm very particular about time. Doctor Who is back! So, the pilot, first episode of Series 10 of Doctor Who. I'm not going to say I was nervous. I had some points of concern going into this. Basically, this thing had two major jobs that I needed this episode to do. I needed it to sell me on Bill, who's a character who I have expressed some concerns about in the past, and it had to show me that the Doctor was still going to be fun, because there were some things said sort of in the lead up that made me concerned that they were going to go back more to Series 8 version of Capaldi's Doctor as opposed to Series 9. And in Series 8, he wasn't as much fun. At least I didn't think he was. So on both those counts, I am very happy. Bill was sold to me on pretty much every level she needed to be. Very quickly. She's got good rapport with Capaldi. I really like the dynamic with her and Nardole and the Doctor. It just nobody feels redundant, and that was another thing I've been worried about, because I really liked Nardole when he showed up in the Christmas special, so I already knew I liked him, and I was afraid that adding Bill to that mix was going to throw it out of whack, but it doesn't. It sort of lets Nardole do what he's best at, which is to kind of stay one step back and just do a little bit of commentary on it, where he's just listening to the two of them going, oh, banter. I love that. I think that sort of stuff's great. And I also understand, and this is a big thing for me, especially coming on the back of Clara and me having been very iffy about her, I get the Doctor's attraction to Bill on numerous levels. It's explained in very simple terms when he just said, most people when they hear something they don't understand, they frown. You smile. Like, great. That's immediately I get why he has an attraction to her, like her mind and the way she processes stuff. Get that right off the bat. And then I see his interactions with Nardole, and I think, I can see where the Doctor would want somebody else, because, with Nardole, he's nice to have around, but, you can't quite engage him on the same level. He doesn't have the same level of curiosity. You can't teach him. And sort of introducing the dynamic of the Doctor and Bill together as a teacher-student relationship, echoing in some ways Ace, who was the companion of the Seventh Doctor, that's the dynamic I get. It's a dynamic that is nicely different. I mean, the Doctor has taken opportunities, to try and educate his companions at various points, but to have that be the fundamental basis for the relationship, I think that is a nice thing, and that I would say we haven't really gotten in modern era, and I'm down for that. I'm kind of just going to jump all over the place. I love the setup. I love the idea that he's just teaching at a universe, obviously the vault, and we have no idea what's going on with the vault right now. What it is, why he's guarding it, who he's guarding it from, what he's afraid of, etc., etc., etc. But I like that what he's found to pass the time when he kind of can't, just go off and leave this thing unattended for very long. He just teaches and he lectures about whatever he wants. Physics is like chemistry because of the rhymes. I love that thought process, and I think it fits Capaldi's Doctor. He's the professor that everyone thinks is the coolest guy on campus. I totally buy that. I buy him as that, and there's just so many little touches that I love, especially about his office. I love the jar of sonic screwdrivers. I love that he's got a picture of River, and they kept cutting back to, I think even more often than River, the picture of Susan, of his granddaughter, yes! So I like where we start from. I like the characters. I like the dynamics. What about the story? Well, it's fine. It's not amazing. It's interesting. It's kind of intriguing. It leaves possibly more questions than it answers, if you're really a logistical nuts and bolts kind of viewer. But for me, it works. And it works in the way that I think most good sort of stories where the plot isn't going to be the point, work well. And when I say that, I mean, like, stories like The 11th Hour, I think, is a great example, because that had to introduce Matt Smith's Doctor and Amy and, sort of reestablish everything. So the actual plot and the story, dealing with Prisoner Zero and whatnot, all it had to do was be functional, because the point of the episode was not that story that was being told. It was all the stuff that telling the story would allow them to communicate to the audience. And this is very much in that same vein. And much like the 11th Hour, it does that very well. And this story sort of focusing on Bill, and I found the puddle intriguing, and I'm just going to say it. I think the use of water and the dripping sound effect and other things, I think water was scarier here than it was in Waters of Mars. I'll just say it. Come at me. But it was intriguing. It was nicely visual the way it worked. I'm gonna pick on anything, like maybe kind of the tail end resolution. When Bill actually touches Heather and kind of what happens. That lead up to that moment and that moment in the immediate aftermath is a little cheesy. But that's about the only thing I would single out as being a bit of a weakness. The plot, as I said, does what it needs to do to allow us as an audience to get a sense of this dynamic, so that we can get our feet and get our grounding with these characters and get a sense of what's going on. Because that's what this episode really had to do, and it does that with aplomb. So I'm really, really digging this. I'm gonna be really curious to see where it goes. Obviously, I think the vault is a nice setup, and they haven't oversold it too much. I like the kinds of things that Bill sort of immediately grasps, and sort of coming at other things her brain, her mind, and her thought process just seems to be different from what we usually get from a lot of the modern era companions. So it's just interesting, just the fact that it took her longer to get what was going on with the TARDIS. I mean, that, and yet the fact that it took her longer didn't make her look stupid. That's well executed. That's well balanced. So I'm really glad Doctor Who is back, and this was a good start. This was a good, solid start. I am excited for what else we are going to get this series. And I'm gonna be sad that Capaldi leaves, but if we can build off this initial starting place, I think this is gonna be a really nice send-off. So, have you seen the pilot? What were your thoughts on it? Whatever they were, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks. Give a listen to the Council of Geeks podcast, available on iTunes and Stitcher. And until next time, this council is adjourned.